Hello, FlossTube. Welcome to the Science Knitster channel. This is Deb or Deborah, Science Knitster on Instagram and Ravelry and Blue Sky, and I think that's pretty much it these days. um, so welcome or welcome back. Um, I have had several new subscribers since my last FlossTube went up, which was my whip parade. um, and got some nice comments on that. So thank you very much. I appreciate all the likes, the comments, and I hope you enjoy today's episode, which is an update um, of the stitching that I've been doing in January and February. Um, I've also done a little bit of other crafts, so I will have a bit of that at the end. And I also plan to have a short science corner. So, so this is a channel mainly about cross stitch, but I sometimes bring in some of the other crafty things that I like to do. So today I actually have a little bit of knitting, a little bit of spinning, or at least I'm going to show you the fiber that I'm spinning, and a teeny tiny bit of quilting also right at the end. So let's get started. This morning, actually, it just became afternoon, I have to say. Um, and it is actually March 1st, but I had planned to record this yesterday. It was a long week. I was just too tired. So, um, so I had left up February for one more day. Actually, after this is over, I will probably at least take the February down. I may leave my Valentine's decorations up for a little bit longer. They spent most of February over on the mantle behind me, but I brought them over here last week so we could enjoy them while we were having our meals. Excuse my slurp. Those of you that are longtime viewers know that I normally start off telling you a little bit about my beverage. Today I am drinking Stash Super Irish Breakfast. That's for when I want a strong tea. That's my go-to. Um, so that is what I am drinking today. It excuse me. We had a really cold snap. We actually went below freezing, which is I'm in South Texas, so that's unusual for us. Although the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, it's become more regular. But it is warming up again. It was a little chilly this morning, but not too bad. But I still feel like a cup of tea today, so that is what I'm having. Okay, so to start us off, I have two finishes. One from, well, that I started in January, and one from February. So this is from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. It was the chart, the one chart that was in the 2025 calendar that I was fortunate enough to be able to purchase. And this is Louise Vilvorder, which I personalized for my spouse's family. Um, so what I've been doing when I personalize these samplers is to choose a woman um, from our families, and I decided for this one to choose Sophie, who is my spouse's great. I can't remember how far back. I should have double checked. It's in my Instagram, but it's one of his foremothers, um, and she was born in Quebec, Canada. Um, and so I honored her with this sampler. I stitched this on Fox and Rabbit 36 count ballet slipper with Vicky Clayton silks in the colorway Red Work Red. Okay, let's see. Now I have to figure out where I'm going to put these. I've got a big pile here. Okay, the other finish actually I started last Saturday, inspired by the cold spell. And it is the January freebie from Primrose Cottage. So if you're on there, they have two different email lists. One is for their quilt stuff and one is for their cross stitch stuff. And I'm actually signed up for both of them. And I think it's usually the first Thursday of the month they release a freebie pattern, and this was the freebie for January. And so it's called Winter Wonderland. And here is my start and finish. I stitched this on 36 count Glacier, which is from Roxy Floss Co. And most of the threads that I use are from Roxy Floss Co. I did my own conversion. I just posted this morning, March 1st, on my Instagram, which is also Science Knitster, where I gave my conversion. So the only colors on there that are not Roxy Floss Co. are the orange and the white. The white is DMC. Actually, both the white and the orange are DMC. The rest are Roxy Floss Co. colors. Most of them, except for the black in the hat on the snowman and the snowman's eyes, are from are colors from the holiday countdown, the 2024 holiday countdown that Roxy Floss Co., Evertote, and Modern Folk Embroidery do. I participated this year, and I showed that finish in my end of December update. Okay, so that's Winter Wonderland. Okay, where to go next? Other new starts. So let me kind of do these somewhat in order. Okay, that was doing yourself. Okay. So first new start on January 1st was the R Sampler Year. Whoops, help if I turn that upside right. The R Sampler Years Stitch Along for 2025, which was Tom's Foolery. And I should say, actually, the Louise Vilvorder, the first finish that I showed, I meant to say that sampler was meant to be my blessing sampler for this year. A blessing sampler is a sampler that you start on January 1st and finish by the end of January, and then that's supposed to give you blessings throughout the year. Unfortunately, I did not quite finish my blessing sampler by the end of January. I had some days where I just stuff was too busy. I was too tired. I just didn't get any stitching done, and then I also got distracted by other stitching. So I didn't finish her until the first week of February. But she is done. Okay, so Tom's Foolery, also from our Sampler Years Facebook group. They do the Blessing Sampler. They had picked a different one this year, but I wanted to do that one, so that's what I did. So I did start this one. I'm a little embarrassed to show my start. I am stitching this Hands Across the Sea sampler on 40 count antique white from Zweigart. Yes, it's Zweigart. And I'm using the DMC, and that's all I got done so far. I've been doing all kinds of other stitching. I do want to try to my plan was to keep up with this one this year. Didn't quite happen. But I think I can catch up once I start being distracted by everything else. Okay, so that's Tom's Foolery, Hands Across the Sea. I should say on both 36 and 40, which is, I think most of the stuff I'm going to show today is on 36 or 40. I stitch with one strand of, of floss over 2 threads. I will try to remember if I have anything that's different to mention that. Okay, also, another new start is January crates, calendar crates by Stitching with the Housewives. This I was inspired to start. This has been on my stash for a while. As part of a stitch along that Mrs. A to Zoo family excuse me, I'll put it down below. Azu family started. She mentioned it in January, December or January, one of her floss tubes. That it's one of the actually was a floss tube she did about all the sales she's gonna be participating in this year, and it's her stitching with the Housewives sal that I think she's doing it with somebody else, but I don't remember who. So I started this on some 18 count Ada that I had in my stash. And I'm also stitching this with Roxy Floss Co. So again, doing my own conversion. And let's see, except for this green and this blue, which were from Winter Wonderland. These are the colors that I'm using. Again, these are flosses that were, except for the white, which is a 3865 DMC. I am stitching this with Roxy Floss Co. colors from the Holiday Countdown sampler. That was Roxy Floss Co. Evertote and Modern Folk Embroidery. But this one is January Calendar Crates or Calendar Crates January from Stitching with the Housewives. I think I worked on this a little bit in the last week or so. When I started it, I had originally hoped to finish it this January, but I got distracted by Winter Wonderland, and that was a nice stitch. There wasn't, for most of it, there wasn't a lot of counting, and that's what I needed this last week. Okay, moving right along. Another new start. This one is from Canadian designer Diana Bloom Designs. She has a series of these 3 winter birds. This one is First Frost. And she has 2 others in the series, and I do plan to stitch the whole series. They use the same palette, Roxy Floss Co. colors, which I have right here. And I am stitching them on 36 count, yes, 36 count Panettone. Also from Roxy Floss Co. So these are the called for colors and linen, at least the color of the linen. I think her model was stitched on 32 count, if I remember correctly. But this is my progress so far. I'm very pleased with how this is going. I'm into an area where I need to pay a little more attention. So I'm not sure how much progress I'll make for a while. Once I got the sort of like the outline of the head done, it was nice, mainly fill-in stitching. So this has been, it was fun to work on this past, not this past week, but the week before. I was able to get some progress done on this one. Okay. Okay, speaking of Roxy Floss Co, seems to be a theme. I've been enjoying stitching with her linen and her flosses. Okay, I'm gonna stick that. I have several things in this bag. This bag is from Corey Creates. Layla P. Creations is her Etsy shop name. Let's see. Let me put that aside for a second. Okay, so another new start. This one was February 14th. Was To Phoenix for You, which is the Valentine stitch along. Again, Evertote, Roxy Floss Co. and Modern Folk Embroidery, like the Holiday Countdown. These are the flosses, just 4 colors. And I am stitching this on the called for which is, I think it's called arrowroot. Let me double check. Actually, I might have the I have it here. Last year's. Oh, I believe it's arrowroot. Not sure. I don't see the name of the linen in here, but I think it's arrowroot. Anyway, here is where I currently am. I did get a little bit of work done on it last night, so I'm about a quarter of the way done. I was hoping to be halfway done by this point, but as I said, I got distracted by Winter Wonderland in particular, and also First Frost for a little bit. I did work on that this month. Okay, so that's 2 Phoenix for you. Beautiful colors. And then the last new start I want to mention is I started this morning. So I guess technically I should wait and do this for my, when I talk about my March stitching, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because it is a Valentine's pattern. I'm a pretty seasonal stitcher, so normally I would not start a Valentine now, but the Winter Wonderland went so quickly and was a fun stitch, I decided to go ahead and start this, and then hopefully I'll have it done or mostly done by the time the March freebie comes out, and I'll be ready to stitch that one. Again, I am using Roxy Floss Co. And I'm actually doing, I did my own color conversion, not to the colors that are shown here, but to colors that more go with the things I already have, or at least some of the things I already have for Valentine's Day. So I actually changed up the colors quite a bit. And I also wanted to mainly use, holiday countdown colors. And I wanted to use a Roxy Floss Co linen. So I am in their linen club right now. I can't remember if I chose 36 count or the 40 count was done when I signed up, was out when I signed up, but this is 36 count. There's no name for this linen. It was the first shipment that I got in September of last year. But it's a beautiful brown color that I think goes well with the sort of the more natural things most of my Valentine stitchery is on. And these are the colors that I'm using. So I changed up the colors quite a bit. I'm using this dark color where there was pink on the original. And then the blue lettering, I'm actually going to use this pink. I didn't want to have pink wings on my bees, so I actually am using a light gray from the Holiday Countdown. The black that I'm using here is actually charcoal, which I'm just going to steal a few strands from First Frost to do the black. I thought about just using DMC, but I didn't want to go hunt down my 310. So I was like, well, First Frost is right here. I want to stitch this right now. So I went ahead and used that. So that's how far I am right now. Hopefully those colors are showing nicely. It's hard to see. Everything is unfortunately looking very washed out on my screen, but hopefully it won't look so washed out when this gets posted. So I'm pretty excited about that and how that will look. I actually I haven't cut down the linen yet. I will. I just haven't done it yet. And I'm actually thinking about starting something else on this linen. Okay, so I need to put all these back in this Valentine's bag. And also out of here, grab my first work in progress. That is not a new start. And that is last year's Valentine, which is called With Love. Again, Evertote, Roxy Floss Co., and Modern Folk Embroidery. Jake was one, obviously, that did the design. I bought the mini kit last year, which had the pattern and the linen. Oh, and I should say the Salentines, both last year as well as this last year's one, as well as this year's, I'm doing those on 40 count. I seem to be going back and forth between the two this year, but okay, so this is as far as I am. Unfortunately, this is Porce 40 count porcelain by Roxy Floss Co. And here are the colors. And I was inspired to go ahead and participate in this one, not just by the beauty of the design, but by the fact that this pink and blue combo, I have I should say we, because it was a wedding gift to both me and my spouse. One of his cousins stitched a wedding sampler for us, and so it is pink and blue. We were married in the late 80s. Those were colors in the late 80s, and so I thought it would be nice to have this framed and hanging near that one, that they would coordinate well together. And I think this year's Valentine's will go with it also. So, although that one's a little brighter, we shall see. Okay, so now I can put all this stuff back in here. Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry about that. Okay. Take a sip of water there. Okay, so those are all my Valentine's related stitching that I have in that bag. Okay, so what else do we have here? So the rest are my whips that I worked on in either January and or February, in no particular order. And I am actually missing one that I could not put my hands on. It's probably upstairs, but it should be down here. Okay. This is Winter Sampler by Little House Needleworks. I bought this quite a while ago. It looks like I may have bought it in 2007 or so, or 2008. So when I bought this particular chart was standalone, and it came with the belle soie that are called for. Several years ago, all 4 seasons were released together, just as the chart. So you can still get this chart. So I am stitching this on a 32 count, I think it's light mocha. It calls for light mocha. I believe that's what I'm stitching it on. And I'm using the belle soie that came in the kit. On 32 count, I stitched with 2 strands over 2 threads. And I love gingerbread. So there you have it. I am contemplating getting the other 4 seasons. I'm kind of a sucker for seasonal and calendar things. So I may do that. This one will probably come out periodically for my Merry 25 stitching, I had planned to work on it or the next one that I'm going to show you this past week, but I ended up working on Winter Wonderland instead because I wanted to finish it. Okay. Again, I worked on in January. I don't think I've worked on this one in February. But this is Partridge and Pear by Max Pigeon of Pigeon Coop Designs, or Perdre et Poire. Excuse my Squirrel Girl French. I took it in junior high school and a little bit in high school when I was thinking about majoring in languages instead of science. But this is another one of Max's beautiful birds. I love his birds. I have several of them on the go right now. But this one, I'm actually stitching on 40 count dirty porcelain. And I have not cut this down because I plan to stitch, there's 2 or 3 of these in the series, and I plan to stitch them all on this same fabric. I wanted it small so that I could finish it as a circular ornament, Christmas ornament. So I'm using the called for DMC, and that's as far as I've gotten. I think, you know, if I stitch on it for Merry 25 a few times, I could easily get this done this year. And I won't show you my threads because they're kind of a mess. No, there's, yeah, I think the other 2 are the turtle doves and the French hens. And I have all the charts. I bought all the PDFs at one point. So I do want to stitch them all. Okay, last of the Christmas ones that I worked on in January. Again, this is another one that will probably come out periodically for Merry 25 because I've been enjoying stitching on it. And this is Gingerbread Village, and I'm working on this one down here, Gingerbread in Cup. And I'm stitching this on 36 count Morning Fog by Be Stitch Me, which is not the called for, but I thought it matched the photo very well. And I am using the called for over dyes, except for the white. Yeah, the white and the sort of black brown DMC 3371. They are the called for DMC. But so here's my floss. This is 36 count, so 1 strand over 2. And that's as far as I've gotten. So maybe by next Christmas, this will be a finish. And I think it would make a nice round ornament. This is another bag that is a Layla P Creations by Corey Create. And it's all the gingerbread. Did I mention I love gingerbread? There's actually another gingerbread design in here, but I didn't stitch on it in January or February. Okay, the last 2 are samplers. First up is A Stitch in Time, Saves 9, 1886 by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. This was, or is, I think it's still available, an exclusive with A Stitch in Time in Tasmania. And if you just buy the chart, it actually ships from Nicholas ships them from the UK, so that the shipping is very reasonable. I am stitching this one on 36 count ballet slippers by Fox and Rabbit, using Red Work Red Vicky Clayton silks, 1 strand/2. And that's as far as I've gotten. I did work on some of the letters down here the other day, and a little bit on this row here. I do like stitching alphabets sometimes. I'm just in the mood for alphabets. So this is a good one to get out when I'm in the mood for alphabets. Okay, last work in progress, stitching wise anyway, is another sampler, this one by Sylvia Stecker of Running with Needles and Scissors. This particular design, oh shoot, let's see if I can get it real quick. I don't have a printout. We are getting it through the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. It was our stitch along for this year. And we've got, we just got the last piece. Let me see, Running with Needles. Let's see, one of these has, I think, the full, there we go. Let's see if I can move this. So here's the top part. So that's Mary Fosh. You can see it is a sampler. Beautiful. The color palette's rather fall. I have a minuscule start, shall we say. I am stitching this on the Called for Oatmeal by Fiber on a Whim. This is a 40 count, and I am using the Called for Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Art sampler threads. And this is as far as I've gotten. So some of our members have finished it already. And Sylvia has finished hers already. My understanding is that she's bringing it with her to the Nashville Needlework Market. So I think she said she was releasing the pattern to the general public then. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. But as you can see, very beautiful fall color palette. Guild members have been meeting once a month to kind of, stitch together. And that's about the only time I've worked on it. And actually in the fall, when they had most of their meetings, I was teaching on Thursday nights, the night that they met, and so I was not able to meet. And then in February, I was able to join them in January, and then in February, I forgot. Forgot that night. Tuesdays and Thursdays are long days for me, so not surprisingly, I was probably just very tired and just forgot. Okay, so that's it for stitching new starts, finishes, new starts, and whips with works in progress. But I have a few purchases that I'd like to share, and also some things I picked up in various places. Okay, so let me, oops. Well, those aren't going to make it. Okay, so one thing I picked up recently at let's see, where did I get? Oh, yes, I got this at the well, it's not just cross stitch, it's cross stitch, needlepoint, knitting, crocheting shop in Comfort, Texas, and I am blanking on the name. I will put it down below. It is not coming to me. Actually, does it? Country. Nope, she doesn't have it on her thing. Anyway, I met my friend Susan and her parents there. We we were taking a a trip in. We wanted to do a little trip in our new electric vehicle and see how charging went. And so let's just say it was an adventure. But I purchased this because I had seen on Microbiology Makes, her floss tube, she had finished this, but she had stitched it on a beautiful dark sort of burgundy maroon fabric. And so wait till you see some of my other purchases. Okay, so I purchased that. And then I purchased, I think all of these I purchased from Abby Topknot. I had purchased Frosty Tiny Town with the idea that I was going to join in Kensington Creates. It used to be Kensington Cross Stitch. She was doing a stitch along with someone else for this one, um, and I was inspired, and I was gonna stitch it, and I haven't started it yet, and winter is ending here. So I also wanted to pick up the rest of the folk hands-on design, her seasonal folks. So I got the winter folk, the summer folk, and the autumn folk. I had already had the spring folk with the intention of participating in that stitch along last year, which I did not do. Never started it. So maybe this year. Let's see, was there anything else? Yeah, these were all from Abby Topknot. Okay, and then usually I make at least a few purchases from the Silver Needle. They always do a big New Year's Eve day sale, um, and um, and also a sale on Super Bowl weekend. Um, and I missed the one for New Year's Eve, mainly on purpose because I had, let's just say, I had spent a bit of money, more than I planned, at the Jingle Ball. So I decided not to, but then there are a few things that I decided I wanted. And so I picked these up. Um, so another tiny town. This is the big hearted tiny town. Again, I was thinking about stitching this one in February, but other things. And then I do like to get, so that's heart and hand also. And I do like the wee Santas. I think I have all of them now. Um, I've stitched one, the big one. There was one that she did large. It was the only one that wasn't a wee Santa. And I forget which year it was, but I actually have it as a stand up, and some of these I'm also planning to do on. So I actually did it on 18 count over with pearl carton number 5, and I'm planning to do some of these. They won't be quite as large, but I'm planning to do some of these that way. I just haven't gotten around to it. I have a whole Santa collection. Okay. So speaking of Santas, I was at a retreat uh, at the beginning of February, and one of the other folks there was downsizing and giving away a bunch of things that she had already stitched. So I picked up some of the Prairie Schooler Santas, some of the old ones. And then this one, and this one. I do have one of the Prairie Schooler Santas stitched. That was one that was in the Just Cross Stitch Christmas ornament issue 2018, maybe 2017. Anyway, I stitched that and finished it as a stand-up. And then there was this combination designs. I have a couple others of these. Actually, there's a couple of these. So there's that one. That's the 96 to 99, and then 88 to 91. I have one of the other ones. One of the other ones that has the Santa with the sunflower. I have that one. That's one that it's another one that I want to actually stitch soon, because the one that I stitched from the Just Cross Stitch Christmas ornament issue, whatever year it was also a Santa with a sunflower. Okay, some other patterns that I have purchased recently. The main one, I'm waiting on a kit from Evertote that recently shipped, and that is, let's see, where did it go? So this is another modern folk embroidery. I like a lot, or love a lot of Jacob's stuff, and I have several on the go, but ask me how many I finished. Oh, actually, no, it's not with love. That's the one. It's the Love Thy Neighbor. Okay, so we've got Love Thy Neighbor. Let's see if I can get, there we go. So it's this one. It's a Quaker. Oops. There we go. So I was inspired by Carolyn of Evertote started this, and I bought a kit to stitch it similar to how she's stitching it. And there's probably some other things I bought recently that I am forgetting. Let me just double check here in my photos. Sometimes I have photos that show what I recently purchased. Nope, I guess that's it. That's probably a good thing. Okay. Then put that aside because I don't need that again. I do have one other. This is actually a kit that I got from Thistle Threads. Trisha Nguyen was our speaker for the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild in February, and she spoke to us about Nuremberg samplers, but then she very generously gave guild members who were there that night a code to to purchase from her website. And so I purchased the course and this kit for Martha Edlin. So I still need to watch the videos. My time to do that is running out. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, what else? So the rest are linens. So this is the burgundy linen or maroon, whatever color you want to call it. It's Cherry Cobbler by Roxy Floss Co. And so I am going to stitch the swan that I showed you from Brenda Gervais, the purchase of which was inspired by Microbiologist Makes. So I'm going to stitch it on this. And I think I have enough of this. There's another thing I might stitch on. I'm waiting for some floss from Evertote. So I'm probably going to mainly choose flosses. Microbiologist Makes did her own, I think it was all or mainly crescent colors. No, not crescent. What is the one that's up in Kansas City? I think is where they are now. Cotton and Color. I think she did her own cotton and color conversion, and I'm planning to probably for the white I'll use just DMC, but for the other colors I'm planning to choose color Roxy Flasco colors that I have mainly, and if I don't have the right color in Roxy Flasco, I will choose some of my other over dyes. So that was for, in case you've forgotten already, that's for this one here. So like the bow, she changed into a pink, and she changed some of the other like colors in there. So I'm going to do something similar, but with mainly Roxy Floss Co. If I can, it would be great if I can do most of them from the holiday countdown colors that I have. Okay, so the rest, let's see, let me do this one first. So last year, so one of the programs we sometimes do for Tudor Rose is to, oh, I should disclose, last year I was the program chair, and this year I'm the vice president. So full disclosure, we had Megan from Lap and Loops kind of came and did a like designer talk, but instead talked about what inspires her in terms of her fabric dyeing. And so I decided to get some of her linen. So this is 36 count T Earl Grey hot because, Star Trek. Got to do it. I don't know if this is coming across, but it's a beautiful golden brownie color that will be awesome for samplers. And then I decided, so I wanted to try both her 36 and her 40. So for her 40, I ended up getting small potatoes, which is a sort of a I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of a creamy background with sort of a haze of sort of a pinky red. So it's got a pinky red cast to it, but brown at the same time. That kind of reminds me of the skin of red potatoes. And so maybe that was the inspiration. I don't know. Have to ask Megan sometime. But beautiful, beautiful linen. I'm looking forward to using these. I've kind of been choosing some linens for some projects I'd like to work on recently, and I might have to use one of those. The last two are linen clubs I'm in. So I'm in the Roxy Floss Co. Linen Club, and this month, or January, I should say the January shipment. So it ships every other month. So I will get a shipment here in March. So this is sort of a greeny gray color called Cove. And I'm getting 36 count. I'm actually thinking so I signed up for a year. And so I'm thinking when it comes time to renew, I might see if I can switch to the 40 count. Or I might see if I can switch to one of the floss coats. I haven't decided yet. I'd like to get some of her 40 count also. Okay, and then Victorian Rose Needlearts has a Seraphim fabric club that I ended up signing up for. And I can't remember how many more I have, but I think I'm gonna let this one go. I did want to get some Seraphim in my stash, and I think when this one ends, that will be enough. This one I am getting 40 count, quarter yard, and this was the, which one was this? Is this February? January, February? Oh, January, because February is arriving today, actually. So this is this is Time Goes By, time as in the herb, Thyme. It's a beautiful brown color. So there's been some nice colors with that that I am planning to use. Not most of them have been colors for samplers, things that I would consider traditional and samplers. And excuse me. But there was one, what's it called? Summer Storm, I think. That's more of a blue gray that I think will work with a Teresa Kogut sampler that I want to do. Okay, so plans. Continue with some of the stitching I'm doing. I want to try to get caught back up with um, the Valentine sow, but I also want to stitch that Valentine and be ready to stitch the March freebie from Primrose Cottage. I think I want to try to stitch those this year. But if you're a returning viewer, you might remember that I'm also started in the summer. Last summer, I started Erin Elizabeth's Hello Summer, and in the autumn, the fall, I stitched her Hello Autumn. And so I want to stitch, and I will start sometime this month, her Hello Spring Again, is what she calls it, because, and I'm stitching it from the pattern that was in Just Cross Stitch, which was originally called All Things Spring, but she just re-released it as Hello Spring Again, because apparently she already had a Hello Spring um, chart. So, excuse me, I'm going to stitch this. I forgot to bring the fabric over here. Oh, actually, the sorry, the fabric that I'm stitching the Valentine chart, the freebie Valentine chart from Primrose Cottage. I think I'm gonna do this on there also. I've pulled the DMC, and I just need to kind of think about it if that's one I want to use, or if I want to use something else. The original was on a beige Ada, and I don't mind stitching on Ada. It's just the other two I've stitched on 36-ish count, 36 or 37 count, and I want them all to be approximately the same size. So so I'm trying to find a 36 count that I like, and I think that Roxy Floss Co. linen from the Fabric Club that didn't have a name is the one that I'm going to end up using. That's all for stitching. So I did say I had a few other things through other crafts. I wanted to briefly show you works in progress. So these are Rose City rollers that I am knitting with some extremely old club colors from when Hazel Knits Yarn had a club. They haven't had a club for quite a while. They actually have their own storefront, which they've had for a while. So these are some old club colors. I'm not even going to, bother to tell you what they are because you can't get them anymore. But I am knitting these, and hopefully I'm pretty close. I may actually be ready to Kitchener stitch. If you're a knitter, you know what I mean. I just close up the toe, or at the very most, just a few more rounds. So I may try to get this done this weekend. They've been lingering way too long. And then I also did a little spinning at the beginning of January that I had hoped would get me back into the groove of spinning. Unfortunately, life has been busy, so that hasn't quite happened. But I started spinning some Miss Babs blue face Leicester, and this is the color. It is called Ladybug. So I'm actually spinning this on a Louette S10 wheel, and I didn't want to take the bobbin off because I'm using one with a woolly winder. So I didn't want to take the bobbin off and bring it over to the camera. But this is the color that I'm spinning. The main reason I chose to spin this is because it will be, once I finish it and then ply it, it will be the yarn that I use for to finish up a project that I started with some hand spun that I had spun quite a while ago. And started the knitting quite a while ago. So a shawl that I've been knitting. And then let's see, what else have we got? I said we got a little quilting. So I am trying to participate in Corey Yoder's Kelly & Co. Block of the Month. I am using Kelly & Co. That's her fabric line that's out right now. There's another one coming out next month. A Bloom, I think, is the one coming out next month. So this is almost completed block number 1. It came out in January, and I worked on this the weekend I was away on retreat. I still need to do some stitch and flip corners, and then I need to work on the February block. Um, and I would like to get this done and the February block done before the March block comes out, which is the third weekend, third Saturday of the month. So I need to get my rearing gear. But that's it for crafty things. So I did say I wanted to have a short science corner. And what I wanted to talk about in the Science Corner this time is the National Science Foundation. Um, Anybody who watches the news knows there's stuff happening here in the United States. Um, and one of the things that's happening is that science, the science departments, I guess you want to call them, have had their funding frozen and cut, and people have been laid off, and etc. Um, I don't have as much experience with the National Institutes of Health because that's not the biology that I do. But I do have some experience with the National Science Foundation. And so I just want to talk about what do the people that work for the National Science Foundation do? And what kind of where do funds go, right? Who gets funds? How does funding get distributed, etc. And what does it do for the country? And so many of the people that work at the National Science Foundation are involved in the granting process. Either they are the scientists, okay, so these are people who have worked as scientists. Many of them have worked at colleges and universities. They have run their own research programs, and they go to at some point either on a temporary basis or a permanent basis to the National Science Foundation and work to make sure that the grants that leave the National Science Foundation are going to places that deserve them. And the National Science Foundation has 2 important criteria that all folks who submit grants have to um, justify. Like they have to say how their grant is going to, or if they receive the grant funds, what they plan to do with them. Um, how are they going to address these 2 important things? One is intellectual merit, and the other is broader impacts. Many people think broader impacts have to do with what is now called DEI. That is one way. One way is to broaden science impact, to groups that are currently underrepresented in science, to communities that are currently underrepresented in science, and so forth. But that's just one way. Um, there are many different ways that you can address the broader impacts. The intellectual merits, I think, kind of speak for themselves. Like what are we going to learn from your project? Now, not all projects are what you call basic research. The National Science Foundation does basic research, right? The grants are for basic research, and basic research can be very important because we don't always know where things will lead as we learn them, right? Understanding um, how how cells work, how evolution works, how speciation works. We don't always understand or know when we start asking different questions where things will go, what things we will learn that will help us in general. And so sometimes things are discovered by accident just through basic research that end up having important applications. And so I just wanted to say that um, so that's one thing. But also, some of the grants are specifically for educational programs. And there is a council that advises the President's Council on Science and Technology. And I can't remember, that might be the whole name, but it's something like that. And one of the things that that particular council um, does is periodically they publish reports on different things. And in 2012, they published a report that basically looked at are we producing enough people in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields to support what, innovation, manufacturing, like different things that would be good for the American economy. Um, and they came to the conclusion that we were not. And they had recommendations for how we could improve that, right? And some of those had to do with how are we attracting people to what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics fields. How do we get more people into those fields? How do we get more people who start in those fields to stay and actually go on and and go into the workforce in those fields, right? And they were talking about the workforce, not necessarily people going into academia, but people going into the workforce, that we weren't producing enough people for our STEM related workforce. And so like I said, I just wanted to give people an idea of what the National Science Foundation does and how it's important to our country. Um, Many of the scientists who are involved in and have grants, um, as in addition to doing basic research, they are also contributing to educating the next generation of folks who are going to go into the STEM workforce. And so having their funding cut not only affects, their actual research, what they're trying to discover, but also will in time, if not relatively quickly, affect the STEM workforce. We already know we don't have enough folks in the United States that are training in those areas, and that we will, if that continues, lose our preeminence in those fields. I also wanted to make sure I mentioned that people who get National Science Foundation grants have to be US citizens or have green cards. They also, any money they spend on personnel, the personnel they hire or the students that they support, or any students that are support on an educational related grant, education program grant, have to be US citizens or hold a green card. So so it's not like the money isn't going to people here in the United States and trying to educate and the next generation of the STEM workforce, as well as keep our preeminence in STEM fields. So I will get off my soapbox, but I just wanted to put that out there. I also want to say that I stand with the people of Canada and Mexico and Ukraine, and I just want to see the United States continue to do good in the world. It benefits us in the long run, and um, and it's just the right thing to do. Yeah. So, um, as always, take time to be kind to yourself and always be kind to your neighbor. Thanks for listening. Bye.